All right. I hope you can hear me. We're trying, right? So let me just kind of get my camera adjusted here a little bit. Um, all right, great, and thank you. Okay, awesome. Yeah, this took me a little bit of time, and what's funny is, I've been at this for a long time, and I've never went live on YouTube, but I really thought I had to give it a shot because I went live on other events or other platforms. And, you know, um, I've many years ago, I created an account on Instagram, and I did that after YouTube. So YouTube started up for me, and it just started to kind of roll. And then people were saying, "Hey, why don't you get on Instagram?" Which I did, and then I started posting some photos and videos out there. And then I went to TikTok, did a little bit of that, but I've always kind of returned back to YouTube. And there's a lot of it takes a lot of time to put together some of the videos that I do when I talk about cameras and shots and how to do the settings. And I leverage Lightroom. And if you see my videos in the past, you'll see where I put all that metadata up in the corner, and it really helps because you get to see the settings of the camera and everything that I did to capture that shot. So that's it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and it takes time. But when I started seeing just kind of how quickly I could get videos out or information out on Instagram, that really kind of sparked my interest. And then I thought, why Instagram? Why don't I just go live here on YouTube where I can just put out some quick information and not get into leveraging a lot of edits like using Adobe Premiere or Adobe Audition for the sound. When I first started all of this, what was interesting to me is, I would use the camera, then I used a separate mic, and I tried to get it just right. It's that perfectionist, that would kick in with me. And I started thinking, what's really important? It's the message, right? It's the content. It's not so much whether or not it's the best video quality in the world. So right here, I'm just on my laptop. It's the camera that's built into it. And I went live just a little bit ago. We had some issues with the sound. So I thought, let me just plug in my AirPods. And so that's what we're doing. But why am I going live, right? I'm going live because I made this video on Instagram and I wanted to talk a little more about it, but I'm heading to Costa Rica. So I'm not sure where everyone's at and when they go to see this video, but I'm in the United States, and I live in the great state of Indiana, which is awesome. I love this part of the country. But I had this opportunity to go to Costa Rica, and I head out tomorrow morning at about 7:30, which right now we're about 10:20. So before long, I'm going to go get a little rest, and prepare for this trip. But what's interesting about this is I'm going to spend some time hiking around the rainforest, and then I'm going to make my way to the coast on the Pacific side, where I'm going to visit a handful of beaches up in there and just really explore around because that's what it's all about. Now, when I take a trip like this, it's a matter of what equipment do I bring? And what I'm going to bring is I'm going to start off with this. And this is the Joby Gorilla Pod. Many of you have seen this before. You might have this. This right here is the DJI Osmo action camera. Now, you know, what's funny is with my earlier videos, I would have looked at this particular camera to do videos and I would be thinking, no way, right? I'm not getting the quality out of this. And I think I started out with the Sony A5100. So if you're not familiar with that camera, it's a mirrorless camera from Sony. It's relatively small and compact. It's not a camera that I ever took stills with, but I did videos with them. And what's nice about that is I used the kit lens that was on there, and I would go into aperture priority and really get that nice soft background. The problem with that camera, though, is that the built-in microphone was horrible. So I used a Zoom H1. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. One day I'm going to go live, we'll do a video, and I'll bring out some of this older equipment, but the Zoom H1 just looks like, it's about the size of your hand, I mean, maybe not as wide, right? Um, but you could record audio into it, and then I could partner up the audio with the video, and I would have what I thought was a good quality video. And again, it was a lot of work to make all that happen. And somewhere along the way, and it's in my library where I did the review on this camera right here. And ever since then, I've been taking this thing with me. And what's funny is, like, if you look at this, this is something that I created myself on this Joby Gorilla Pod. This is just part of a selfie stick. You'll see right here. This just comes right out. So, it's your clip into the mini tripod. Now, this Joby Gorilla Pod has treated me right, and it's starting to really start to show its age. One of these legs have popped off on me a couple of times. You just got to put it back in there. But when I'm out and about, and by the way, this trip to Costa Rica, it's a solo trip. I'm going by myself. Now I'm going to be in the Guanacaste province, which is on the northwest portion of that country, and just north of there is Nicaragua. Now I gave a little thought about going into Nicaragua, but um, the U.S. has a lot of caution to travel into that country. But we'll see. If I'm feeling crazy, then we're gonna roll some dice and have some fun. But this right here, when you have this on it, this really kind of serves as a little protectionary process as well, because it's kind of like a little stick. So it's worked out well. But when I talk about the technology and what I'm bringing, this right here is a staple. This is going to be coming with me. And what's different about this trip, though, is that if you've watched any of my videos, in the past, you'll know I was really, really into the DSLRs, and I started off with, that D3400, and then I had the D3500. I went with Canon, and I had some Panasonics in there, um, obviously Sony's. I've shot all kinds of cameras, and I've shot the crop sensors and the full sensors, all different kinds of lenses. Um, for me, it's like a fish in water when I get my hands on a camera. But I've said this before. It's not really about the equipment. It's really just about it's about the photographer using whatever equipment that photographer can get their hands on. And, it's just knowing all cameras have an aperture, a shutter speed, and an ISO. And if you know how to manipulate those three things, then you can take awesome shots. And the other thing that's really important to understand is it's the composition of the shot. Sometimes I'm just out walking around, and maybe you've been in a similar situation where something will just pop with you. You'll see something and you're going to say, you know what? I, in your mind, you'll know what makes that shot. And when you get that, it's like scratching an itch, and that's something I've always strived to do. Now I use Adobe Lightroom. I like to shoot in RAW. I like to bring my photos in. And I know some people, when they think about the post processing, they think, maybe they see it as a chore, right? But I see it as another part of the creative process of an image. And because there's so much you can do with that, but it all starts with the foundation of the image itself. Now, if you've been watching some of my videos recently, you'll know when I go out on these adventures, sometimes I try to travel light. And computational photography with cell phones, it's just gotten better and better. But what I've noticed is, and while it's gotten better, it's great, but there's always going to be one limitation to the cell phone, and that's the sensor size. So, it's the benefit of using a full sensor versus the crop sensor. But when you do this, it is awesome. And yeah, I see the comment about the D5600. Um, yeah, you know what? And it's funny because what I'm taking with me on this trip is I'm taking the Sony A5100 with the kit lens, and I even forget what's on it. I think it's like a 16 to 55 kit lens. Um, Sony does a good job. It overheats, but the only reason I'm bringing that with me is because I know down in the rainforest, what I'm really hoping to shoot will be some monkeys, some howler monkeys, and maybe some toucans. And I know that while I'm going to bring my Nikon D3400 with me, I'm bringing two lenses. I'm bringing I think it's the 18 to 55, and then I'm bringing the 70 to 300. Now, I don't like lugging a lot of stuff around, especially in a rainforest, right? But that 70 to 300 on a crop is going to get me time and a half of the 300. And I'm hoping that if I spot, some of those animals up there, I'll be able to grab some really cool, awesome shots, better than I can with anything else. And the reason for that Sony A5100 is so I can get some video with it. Because I know when I put together the YouTube video, I want to be able to show you that this is what I'm seeing. And then this is the still that resulted from that. And so we'll see how all that turns out. I'm also bringing an iPhone. I'm bringing two different iPhones with me, um, and there's kind of another reason for that. And I think that's about it. So I got the Nikon D3400 with the two lenses, the Sony A5100 with the standard kit lens, really for the video, my DJI Osmo action camera with this tripod right here. Now, there's something else I was debating about, and that is it's the big tripod, and I was able to fit it in the carry-on. But I gotta tell you, I don't see myself hiking out to the waterfalls. You know, I mean, I think it's on day 2 or 3. I'm gonna do about a 10-mile hike in there, and I'm gonna get to some volcanoes and a couple of waterfalls there, and this is where I see myself going with this tripod right here. And, I could put the D3400 on this. The other thing I'm bringing is the neutral variable density filters, if y'all are familiar with that. I've done a lot of videos with that as well. And I lost a step ring in there, a couple years ago. And when I lost that step ring, it was like one of those. It was an important step ring. Like, I have a lot of filters, and I get them relatively large, and I use the step rings up. That way, the filter will fit multiple lenses, right? You don't want to step down. You can step up. You don't want to step down, because if you step down, you're going to get severe bokeh, on the outside of that image, and nobody wants that, right? So, um, I don't know what happened with that one particular ring I lost, but I ordered it up, and so now I've got a full set again, and so I'm bringing that neutral density filter with me. Um, and what I'll say is this, because that is, if you're not following me on Instagram, then go ahead and do so, because that's where I'm going to try to post some of the updates as I get underway with this adventure. I'll be out there for 9 or 10 days. If things are going well, I might extend it by a day or two. I've had a couple of people reach out to me out there, and they're inviting me to stay with them. So one of them is a family that's kind of inland. We'll see how this goes, right? I always appreciate the local culture, though, and we'll see how it goes. The other one is it's a lodge of some sort on the coast. So they've invited me to come on out and check out the property, and we'll see how that goes. But during that journey is where I'm going to make those updates in Instagram, because Instagram, those videos, like, the most you can do is like 90 seconds, right? So I figure I can get out there and just post kind of a quick, how's it going? And this is where I am, and maybe a couple of shots of some of the things I've taken along the way. And when I get back, it always takes me a little bit of time, like a few days or maybe a week, to put together the YouTube video, depending on how long it is and the edits that are involved with it. But I do plan to bring, this laptop with me. And so we'll see how that goes. I think that's about it. I think, I've run pretty good here. I know we just have a handful of folks that have joined up, and maybe I'll do lives in the future. And when I do, let me just take a look at the comment real quick. Yes, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Um, yeah, okay. What's interesting about this comment is, it's so funny to me, because I was feeling the same way there for such a long time. When you're limited on space, especially when you're taking a flight, I mean, I'm looking at this gear and I'm thinking, oh, come on now. You know, so if you have a more modern cell phone, right? Like, I have a 14 Pro, and that 14 Pro, you can do a long shutter. Well, you do a live image, right? And when you do a live image, you can caption the long shutter. I've done this with flowing water. Been amazed, because guess what? You don't need a tripod with that. That's computational photography. And what it's doing is, when you take that shot, it actually opens up for just like a couple of seconds, and you hold it as steady as you can. But when you say you want the long exposure, you'll notice it'll crop in. But this is all part of the advancement in technology. Now, some of you may or may not know, I'm big in the world of tech. Like, I mean, I started off doing a lot of application development work, and I'm heavy into the information security space. So, when I think about artificial intelligence and what that's bringing to technology, it's just a whole nother story. And when you look at the advancement of photography, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, and I mean, it's advancing so far now that some might ask the question, will it make DSLRs obsolete? What's really important. You see this right behind me. So this picture right here, I took this probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago at a golf course. I was just driving one morning. I was heading into work, gonna do some stuff, and there was fog, sun was coming up. This is a sunrise photo. I pulled over, and that's a ball washer right there. And I had my camera with me because I thought never go without the camera, right? If you're gonna take a shot and it's worthy of taking, bring the DSLR out. That was always my thought. But now, do you know how the big difference is the way we share our images. So, back in the day, we used to share images by getting them printed. And then you'd meet up with your friends or family and you'd be like, "Yeah, look, I got 26 printed images right here," and you'd thumb through them, and then pass them around and that kind of thing. And then it kind of went to, well, let me email you some of my images and let me post them somewhere. You can go look at them. People had, desktop machines. They still have desktop. I have a desktop machine here off to the side. Also got the laptop. People have tablets. But then what started happening? The cell phone. And the cell phone started to advance more and more and more. And when you want to share images with people, how are you doing it? You're sharing them via cell phone. I mean, it's no longer, let me email this image to you, or you might send a link to where you have your images stored, but how are they viewing those images? Cell phone. I mean, are they putting them up on a big screen, like, a huge monitor? I'm not saying it doesn't happen like that, but it's far and few between now. So when you think about it, and you think about if you take an image with a cell phone and you're sharing that image with other people that are viewing it from a cell phone, then you're in good shape. I mean, the minute details, the things that I bring into Lightroom, and I'm shooting in RAW, and I'm taking the largest possible image, and that's where I break out the full sensors, and I will get in there and slice and dice on that image. I mean, I can have fun spending like 20, 30 minutes on one image, if I really want to have some fun with it. You'll know if you watch some of my videos, I like to isolate colors. Now you can isolate colors pretty easy in Adobe Lightroom, and I think I've got a video or two on that in my library if you haven't seen it, and maybe I'll do some new videos on it as well, just because I enjoy it. And then Lightroom comes out with a mobile app, so you can do things like that now with your phone. So back to that previous comment though, I can 100% relate with that, and that's the reason why I was really debating. When I get to a waterfall and I know I want to capture that flowing water, I always think to myself, I've got the cell phone. I know I can get a live view, and I know I can get the long exposure. And the computational photography that comes with that is spot on. It's very, very good. Now, if you put it on a big screen, you zoom in, you're probably going to be able to pick it apart, and they're only gonna get better with it, by the way. I mean, you can adjust the aperture now on the fly. And yeah, I know when Apple first came out with this, with some of their earlier, renditions, of smart photography with the portraits, when they did this, you would notice some of the blurring around the hair and the edges of the people. And, I mean, if you zoomed in, you would see that. So you would know, like, you're really not getting that crisp shot. So at any rate, I just wanted to jump on here real quick, and I think I'll be able to save this video so others who aren't watching it right now can pick it up later as well, and just know I'm on this adventure. And again, if you're not following me on Instagram, feel free to do so. And that's where I'll post some updates about this upcoming trip. And when I get back, then I'll put together that broader image and or the broader video and get it out here on YouTube. And maybe we'll do another live, and we could do more kind of like a Q&A, and let me just check real quick. Um, yeah, I know what you mean about looking back at the old images. Shit, I got a lot of those. It's kind of a what's interesting with me with when I look at old images, you know, you're freezing time, right? and maybe it's a family event or there's something going on in life at that time. I think to that, and then I also think about, what it took for me to get there. There's a lot of things that I came up with just, throughout my career when it comes to technology that I always felt like, I was just a slight step ahead. And when I talk about like working with the camera, I was doing things and my friends are like, how did you get that? I don't know if anyone saw the steel wool video that I did. Like, it was probably a couple years ago. Um, I've done some like, the light photos and things like that. And I started thinking, as technology advanced and AIs come into play, you know, is it real? Or was it that it was done in post processing? And I always think, are we losing the art of the authentic photos? And that's I think that might be kind of the sad thing that happens here. But yeah. So at any rate, hey, listen, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I do appreciate you joining in and appreciate you following the channel. And I'm going to post some additional content. Just stay with me. And thanks for the good vibes on the trip that'll happen. And just stay tuned on Instagram. And I'll catch up on YouTube when I'm back. I don't know that I'm going to have real good internet coverage down there, but we'll see if I do. And things are going really well. Maybe I'll throw another live out there. You'll know if I go live next week. I'm down there, so we'll see how that works out. All right, everyone. Yes, take care of yourself. Be safe and enjoy your life because it's short. Everyone, stay blessed. Take care.